Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Empowered Whistleblower radio show. I'm your talk host, syndicated talk host, Dawn Marie Westmoreland, coming from Asheville, North Carolina, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, coming from WPVM FMLP 103.7 Radio Asheville. It's a beautiful radio station about the arts, the culture, storytellers, and more. My show airs Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone, and you may hear it at a different time because it's syndicated. So I'd like to recognize our guest today. Welcome, Jesse Pudles. Jesse, how are you today?
Hey Don, I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, and where are you coming from?
I am calling in from sunny New York City.
Oh my gosh, I know so many people in New York City and so many people that left New York City. One of them's my good friend who said he left the little town and moved to Asheville, North Carolina. Jesse and I got to know each other. We were introduced. We were introduced by Felix Nader. Is that right? Felix
Yep,
is
that's correct.
great. One of the best workplace violence security prevention consultants out there in the United States. But anyway, it's so good to meet you, Jesse, and talk to you. We were talking about the workplace, and my background's HR, 32 years. Jesse has a company. He's the CEO and founder of Spot Corp Events. Jesse, in a nutshell, tell our listeners what you do as a CEO and a founder with this company.
Well, I think that's a great question. What the company does and what I do are two very different things. What the company does is we do team building and employee engagement through theater and storytelling. And as the CEO and founder, I created the model along with for these sessions, along with my chief production officer, Peyton Ashby. I run all of our sales operations. I oversee our marketing, although there is someone, Izzy Slant, who is much smarter than me, and he maintains a lot of our marketing. I also oversee everything in terms of new builds and building out the company and creating new products. And through that, we've also created our spotlight events, which are not for companies, but for everyday people who just want to be seen, heard, and valued for their own stories. And we run those in New York, and we ran them in LA for many years. We'll be running them again very soon. And maybe other cities soon to come. And then the last thing we do is we also produce theater. So we just produced our first one-man show that was created off of someone's original storytelling share about if it's okay to speak about something a little sad,
Yeah,
um,
our show
about
does include sadness.
losing their mother, and
Oh,
how they used magic to heal from that trauma. And it's a beautiful one-man show that was written and performed by our head of marketing, our chief operations officer, Izzy Slant, who is also, I think, award-winning playwright, but definitely a playwright. And directed by Peyton Ashby, who again is our chief production officer. So, as the CEO and founder, I wear a lot of hats. But when you talk about what the company does and often what we talk to other companies about, we do team building and employee engagement through theater and storytelling.
and that is just amazing how it all comes together, all these backgrounds and skill. And congratulations, that's a lot of responsibility, Jesse. So
Yeah,
we were talking earlier about, the workplace, and that's a huge amount of time that we spend in our workplaces, whether we work for ourselves or work for others. But let's talk about, the folks that are working for other people. You go in and you help with providing psychological safety. I know what that is as an HR person. You know what that is as your background. But what is psychological safety to the person listening in? They may be younger, never heard the term.
absolutely. And that's so normal. There are many people who've either never heard the term or who've like heard the term of like safe space or want to feel comfortable. And those aren't necessarily what psychological safety speaks to. So psychological safety is the most studied dynamic in teams in business, at least in the country, potentially in the world right now. And basically, it means three things. Well, there you go, three things. It means one, that your employees are willing to take risks. So that is how innovation happens when you look at things like, you know, what happened at Netflix where they were a DVD company and had to shift to being a streaming service, or you know these companies that are willing to take risks. So that comes from a safe environment where you can speak up, share your risk ideas. Two is that you can share openly and authentically about your wants and needs. So either something that like you desire and you want to grow with the company, or maybe a challenge you're facing and you can speak honestly and openly about it. And then three, that you're in an environment where you can make mistakes and you won't be punished for those. And this one is huge
Mhm.
because this is one of the number one reasons why people don't speak up. Even if you work at a company and you make a mistake and everyone goes, "Oh, John, really missed the mark on this one, bud." Even that light touch, which could feel okay in a psychologically safe workplace because they're going to help and support you and guide you in moving through the mistake as a learning opportunity, those words could completely debilitate someone if they've been working on something for 2
Mhm.
weeks and they really were excited to show, and then something like that comes out and it just completely shuts down the person. And so basically, psychological safety means you have all three of those things, which is what leads to innovation, which is what leads to people feeling seen, heard, and valued in the workplace. And it's what leads to people trying things and not just being complacent in their jobs. And then it leads to so much more after that.
That's a lot of activity there. That really is. Yes. Well, it's in my heart, to get our men in the workplace to open up more. I mean, they're always out there with the strategies and the techniques and the engineering and the infrastructure of so many great things. But how do you get the men, especially? And I ask that because, I grew up with seven brothers and stepbrothers. I spent 20 years in the Air Force with a bunch of men. How do you get the men to talk about their feelings, what's going on inside? Because that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Their conditioning and such.
Yeah. And I think that, like, it's funny you say that because I think the answer is the same way you do with the women. It's just they haven't been put in as many of those environments.
Hmm.
Any people that come through our doors. But with the men, it means more to them. So our sessions are designed to get people to open up, to get people to bring down their walls. And the reason for that is that, especially, when you're guiding people who are leading teams or even who are interacting in teams, especially with the way men are child reared, there's almost a teaching that like vulnerability is not the move. Leading from a place of like confidence and knowing
Hmm.
what you know. And if you don't know something, like looking at, excuse me, looking it up or figuring it out is the way to go. And while there is value to that, the biggest thing you can actually do as a leader is say, I don't know how to do that, or I'm not sure how to do that. And the reason is that when you say, I don't know how to do something, the next time you say, oh, I know how to do that, everybody trusts you. Because when you're willing to admit when there's a gap in your understanding, when you know something, everyone's like, "Oh, well, he always tells us if he doesn't know. So why would we ever not trust him on this?"
Yeah.
It's this huge, like, mind mess, like, mind shift where you realize that actually by showing the vulnerability, you're more trustworthy because and also then your other employees feel more comfortable to be like, "I don't know." And that's how you get less work delivered to you that isn't strong and all this. But you asked specifically about the men, and I think that really comes down to, like, the way they're reared and really being taught those kinds of things. And I think our program really kind of touches on that mentality where kind of it can hit anyone because basically the first part of our program, so our program works in three acts. Our intro session, which we do with every new company we start with, and the first section is going to be some sort of game or theater activity that's going
Mhm.
to open you up but work on something. But it's almost always going to ask literally nothing of you. Like, it's not gonna ask anything about you personally, it's not gonna ask anything about your life or your details. So, all you're doing is you're getting a little uncomfortable because you're doing something theatrical, and
Mhm.
theater as a tool, about 80% of people have some version of stage fright, and fear of being perceived. And stage fright actually is a larger fear in society than fear of death. So it is
Mhm.
a huge tool for helping people overcome and shift because we have this thing inside us that makes us think, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. And once you've overcome one thing, you can overcome something else and else. And
Mhm.
so, kind of the icebreaker is that first step where you're, taking those initial walks into the pond of
Yeah.
whatever scares you. But the nice thing is that you're not sharing anything. You don't have to. You're laughing, We have games where you're, telling gibberish slideshows. We have games where you're just doing one word story, really depending on how much of a journey we have with your team. If you're a shyer team, we're going to play different games with you than if you're, a sales team and talking to people every day and standing in front of rooms. Um, and then the second activity, we uh, basically challenge you by giving you some sort of prompt, but we're going to make you express it in a medium that is outside your comfort zone. So maybe you'll be rapping, or you'll be singing, or you'll be dancing. This is usually people go, no, don't want to do that.
I can
Like,
see
I
that.
don't. But what's so interesting is at that point in the process, nobody is thinking about vulnerability. They're thinking about their fear. And so
Mhm.
when they get given this activating prompt or storytelling sharing prompt, they're like, "Oh, I know how to answer that, but I don't want to do it this way." But they're like,
Mhm.
"But that's the activity." But you give them something really accessible and really tangible and also really light. We don't want to make this question anything intense or scary or,
Mhm.
we want to make it something that's like, what's something that makes you laugh or what's something that makes you smile, something really light touch. Now, like I said, all our sessions are customized, so it will usually be something a little more nuanced than that based on the company that we work with, but it's something that is accessible and easy to answer. But you're not even thinking about answering the question. You're just thinking about, oh, I have to do it in the scary medium. And so then when we get to the end of the session, which is usually when we get to the real question, when we get to people really opening up, that is usually when that's when we say strip away everything. Now you have more time than you've ever had before to prepare.
Mhm.
You have more time to share. You can share in any medium. And honestly, people are just happy that we didn't make them rap or like do this. They're just thinking about how not fearful they are. And so these walls just come down. Because what's interesting is that when you give people a different focal point, it completely shifts where their defenses can be.
Mhm.
So instead of their defenses being in the space of like, oh, I don't want to open up, their thing is like, oh, I don't want to like, you know, embarrass myself or do something scary. But once they've moved through that, they're like, well, now I can do anything. And you take away the things that make it scary and then they feel safe. I think that's
Mhm.
something that a lot of men are used to is like we're used to taking on. Everyone is used to it, but like as far as specifically the question about men, like men are raised to like take on the challenge and take it head on and all of this stuff. And so I think that that's a really nice point to what we do is that you're taking on a challenge, you have a goal in mind, and then we kind of take all the gas out of it. And we're like,
Yeah.
actually, this is where you're at. And this is the new goal. And this is the new activity. And people go, oh, okay.
You know, we all get into our roles, the job, the roles that you're playing. I shouldn't say role because it's usually always plural because of a backstory. I got into becoming a coach, a consultant, speaking on resiliency because of my backstory. What, Jesse, got you into the work that you're doing?
Um, so I like to call myself an accidental CEO. Um, I have always kind of had two paths that I've kind of run in parallel. I've been an actor my whole life, been an actor since I was 8 years old. Um, and then simultaneously, I have always been in leadership development. So I started in leadership development when I was 21, 22 years old. And I pretty much have been in it off and on throughout the last. 10, 11 years. So uh, leadership training, and then I did some corporate consulting, and then I was away from it for a bit. Then I did some teaching, then I did corporate training. So I've really done kind of a lot of different stuff in the space of like education, corporation development, and corporation training. And when I created, because I talked about Spotlight, when I created Spotlight, uh, so Spotlight was created off of basically an epiphany I had after I had a fight with a roommate.
And how about that?
Basically, what happened was it was the beginning of COVID, and we got into a disagreement.
Hmm.
And he told me that he needed to be moving out, and it was a really hard time because it was that part of COVID where you really could only see your roommates. It was
Yeah.
before things had started to open up, and I like went into my room and I didn't know, and we had gotten quite close, and so it was a very unexpected thing. Um, and I started to cry, and I felt really embarrassed crying in my own apartment with him right next door. So I went for a walk. I went for a walk to clear my head, and I started like walking, and I was listening to music, and I was like walk dancing as I was walking down the street. I was like, I probably look like an insane person right now, but I just needed to get out my feelings. I needed to get out whatever was happening
Process.
inside.
Yeah.
And I happened upon this empty parking lot, which as long as I've lived there, this was when I was in LA. It's called the Paul Smith Wall, and it's usually littered with influencers. It's got this like cute light pink background, and people day and night are always taking photos there. But it was COVID, and so for the first time ever in the 4 years I'd lived there, it was empty. And so I walked in there under the spotlights, parking lot lights, and I performed for no one for 6 minutes. And
I love it.
I sang and I sweat and I danced and I sang and I said, I don't care who is looking out their window at me. I don't care who is whatever. I am doing this for me. And I finished the performance and my heart was pounding. And I just thought, wait a second. Do I have something here? This might be a something. This might be an idea. This might be. And I thought, is there a way to give performance back to the people for the sake of releasing and letting go and feeling
Mm-hmm.
free? And
Hmm.
so that's what I did. I went about creating something that could do that. I created Spotlight, which is an open mic style event with no audience except the other participants. So you're not trying to impress industry leaders, you're not trying to do anything. You're just trying to remember why you love to share. And you also don't know what you're sharing until 24 hours before the event. So 24 hours before the event, you get given a prompt, and you use that prompt to create your share in whatever medium you want. And you can do it however you want. Um, and everyone gets up to 10 minutes in the spotlight to really
Oh.
be seen, heard, and valued for their own story.
Hmm.
And there's more nuances that have kind of gone into it as we've grown it. But uh that was kind of the onus. And then after about a year of running these, I created them for artists. Like I created them for artists to be able to remember why. So many just like everyday people started coming who had a connection to art but hadn't done it in forever, or who wanted to express themselves and just loved to be able to share. And people were staying at these events 2, 3 hours after they were over. This was, after COVID had gotten like everyone had kind of gotten vaccines and stuff like that, and we were back in person. And uh I was like, what's happening? Something else is happening here that I didn't plan on. And I realized that we were creating psychological safety. We were creating these rooms where people could share and feel supported and listened to. And people really wanted to be in that community. And people are becoming best friends. They're becoming roommates. And I'm just thinking. And one day we were all sitting around, and a girl was like, hey, why don't you have something like this for work? You know how much people at the workplace want to be seen, heard, and valued for their own ideas.
Absolutely.
So that's exactly what I did. I thought about my background. I realized that I was kind of the perfect person to create it. And so I did. I went to work, and Over the next 6 months, I built it. Then I brought it to my high school best friend, Chris Spiker, who has his master's degree in organizational leadership. And I was like, hey, I made a thing. You have a lot of expertise in this. I have plenty of
Yeah,
experience, but like you have a master's degree. Take a look at this. Tell me where we're on track. Tell me where we're out of line with current industry standards. And he took a
yeah.
look at it and he was like, no, you have something. He was like, this is good. He's like, I have a couple notes, but overall, it's really good. So consulted with him, and then once we had what we needed, we started beta testing. We beta tested with 4 companies. We said all we ask is that you do a focus session with us and you give us feedback. And uh, we got great feedback, and the biggest feedback we got is why isn't this longer? Uh, or
You rarely, rarely, rarely ever hear that in training of any
yeah,
kind.
yeah, not the session, but they were like, why aren't you coming back every month?
I
Like,
gotcha.
yeah. But you're right. You're right. It was huge. And I felt, I was like, okay, if that is the question being asked, we have lightning in a bottle. I was like, if the question being asked is when do you come back? Like our first sale I made because I walked into the CEO who let me beta test in his company, who kind of did it as a favor to me because we know each other quite well. Um, and basically he was like, well, he's like, you had a great beta test. He's like, I will not be buying. And I was like, okay. And so I went out to all of his staff and I basically got testimonials from all of them being like, keep Jesse around. And I brought them all into, I put them all in a PowerPoint deck and I said, okay, here's our sales conversation. I said, all the reasons you should buy. And it was just everything from all of his employees. And
Mhm.
he ended up being our first long-term contract. So 12 months and now we're on our 18th month. We've extended twice.
That is impressive, very impressive.
Yeah.
So you go in, you're contacted, Jesse. You go in and already styled, formatted how you're going to do your training, your gamification. Um, when it's all done, what happens after that day? I mean, do you turn over outcomes and results to the CEO? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
yeah.
great.
What happens after the training's done, the
That's a
experience?
great question. So normally the way that we structure it, so right after the training, immediately after we do a survey, seeing, okay, have you grown in kind of these specific categories that we were looking
Mhm.
for? First session, we have a little bit more broader categories because kind of everyone starts in different places. So we want to see kind of that you've grown in terms of risk taking and problem solving and confidence with communication with your coworkers and confidence communication with your supervisor, things like that. So we do that immediate survey. Then usually about 2 or 3 weeks later, we'll have a meeting with with the leadership of the team. So if that's the CEO or the leader of whatever team we're working with, and we'll say these are the things you wanted to work on. What shifts have you seen? Now, what we'll try to do is before we ever book you, we'll try to say like, what would that tangible shift look like to you? Would it look like this? Would it look like people like less people coming to you? And usually during that, we'll get 1 or 2 stories. We recently did one on delegation. We did a program on delegation, and we got into that meeting, and the first thing was like, oh, one of our people delegated all of their billing this month. And I was like, okay, so this is huge. So he had more time to work on his things. He had more time that's tangible evidence that we have. Then simultaneously, we also send out what are called um, we have key takeaway sheets, and my chief production officer is going to kick me because I can't remember which one is called which, but key takeaway sheets, which are basically write-ups about, kind of the more emotional things that happened in the session, what people shared, some learnings that we got from that. And then the other thing is we're going to give you basically what is akin to like a learning sheet. That's what it's called, a learning sheet and a learning sheet. So every single section of the 3 sections of our main sessions, or if we do what's called our BFFs, which are our in-between sessions, which focus on a specific need, usually there will be some sort of research or learnings. And usually those learnings have a tangible outcome. Like, okay, we just did a program on decision making. So we taught them how to make decision trees. And so we would give in the copy information about how to make a decision tree. And so we give them that research sheet. So we give them research sheet with tangible tools. We have the survey, which gives us the immediate knowledge, and then we have the interview with the leader, which gives us that those trackable. Did we hit our goals, or do we need to kind of return? And also, one of the questions in the survey is usually, would you like to keep learning this, or do you think we want to move on to something else? And that also gives us huge data if they feel like
Yeah.
they've moved through something or they feel like they're still in it.
I can imagine even one session would make a difference and open up people's eyes and their minds, definitely. On average, how many times does a company tend to hire you? And I'm sure there's different reasons why they bring you in too.
Yeah, so there's kind of like three different companies, three different kind of models that I say. I would say there's companies that want us but don't need us. There's companies that want us and need us. And there's
Hmm.
companies that don't want us but need us. And I would say in general, the first type of company, which is like a want us but don't need us, they're usually someone who's pretty good about team building, but they just are looking for, a cool and different kind of team building. They have a good team, but they're always looking for innovative solutions. And usually I would recommend with them that we do like a quarterly cadence. Let us come in once every 3 months, see your people, connect. I think one of the things that is interesting about what we do specifically is that our sessions are quite small. So we don't work with teams of more than 12. So,
Okay, good
for
number.
most companies that are over, that are going to use us for more than one team, which I usually advise that they do because we usually like to start with leadership and then work our way through the
Mhm.
organization. I would say kind of book us on a monthly cadence or book multiple sessions a month. And then we can look together at who in the organization hasn't been touched or hasn't been tapped, and we'll work with them. So let's say you have a 200-person organization. Maybe we start by working with the C-suite because we're educating them on how to kind of teach the stuff we're about to bring down the pipeline. And then maybe the C-suite is in a really good place. So we only need to tap them once a quarter. But then
Mhm.
in the meantime, the team beneath them may want us once a month. So I usually say book us for a number of sessions a month, and then let's work as a team to figure out what's the best cadence. Now, when
Mhm.
you're starting with us, I usually say just book one, um, just so you can see it. You can experience it for yourself and know that it works. And then let's strategize on, how many teams you want this to touch. What are the different teams' needs so we know kind of how frequently. And then also, if you book one of those kind of longer term relationships, a 6 month package, a year, we can move things around. So sometimes you have a team that you're like, this team is immovable and they're never breaking through. You're going to need to be with them for a year. And then we're with them 3 months and they're like, well, they broke down all their silos. They're all talking to each other and they're friends. And I'm like, okay.
They bested through the obstacles.
So then we,
That's what everybody wants to know and hear.
exactly. So then we move on to a different team. And when you have one of those kind of like longer term packages, you can pivot in that way because you just have the session and you can figure out who it needs to go to.
Who is your ideal client, Jesse?
Great question. I would say for us, while we can, of course, work with any industry, the ones that we've seen the most success with thus far is the call center BPO tech industry.
Hmm.
And then the other one is the senior living industry.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. So we're almost out of time. Um, Let us know right now. Do you have any books? Do you speak? Are there any things that you want to share with the listeners above and beyond your company at this time? How can we contact you if we want to get to know you better, find out more about your services?
Sure, absolutely. So I do speak. I speak on quite a few podcasts and now radio shows. This is my first radio show, so happy to
Oh,
be
and we're glad, so happy to have you, Jesse, too.
here. I also speak around New York City. I've spoken for New York City SHRM. I've spoken for the National Aging in Place Council. So yeah, if you want to hire me for speaking engagement, always happy to do that. I've done speaking engagements on things like play, the secret ingredient to psychological safety, or I've done speaking engagements on I'm drawing a blank right now, but
It's
on
okay.
yeah,
Wait till you
yeah.
get older, Jesse. Okay, how can people contact you? We're out of
Yes.
time.
Yes.
How can people find you?
So my website is spotcorpevents.com. On there, you can sign up for a demo if you would like. You can also sign up for a discovery call so we can get to know each other. You can also just email me directly, jesse@spotcorpevents.com. Other than that, you can find me on LinkedIn at Jesse Pudles. I'm the only Jesse Pudles on the internet, so you will find DVDs that I bought in the sixth grade for the Futurama box set. But
And Puddles is 1D as in Delta.
Puddles
1D.
is
I
one.
thought it was two, but nope. Okay, listeners, it's great to have you. Stay empowered. Remember, every day we get to choose to be empowered or disempowered. I'm your talk host, syndicated talk host, Dawn Westmoreland, coming from Asheville, North Carolina, WPVM FMLP 103.7 Radio Asheville. Have a great day and always stay empowered.